How's it going, guys? I am here today with a 1989 Ford Mustang LX. This was a 4-cylinder car, and it is the notchback or coupe that everybody wants. Now, I happened to find this rust-free car other than a very, very, very tiny bit in the rear quarter panel from a local kid to me that was going to rebuild it for his dad. He threw in this LS motor with the deal, so I think $500 into this car at the end of the day. I'm not going to get into all the details right now. You can go watch a previous video where I do believe I explained it at one point, but I'm going to continue to go on here. So I was in a page this morning on Facebook. I believe it was LS Swap Mustangs or LS Swap Fox Bodies or something, but I saw the question 3 times today, and I got sick of typing the same answer every time, so I'm making the video for it. Now, the number one question that I see is, can you put an LS in a Fox body without swapping the crossmember? Yes, you can. Okay. So, the reason I say you can do it is because I did it. Now, I have the factory crossmember in it. I built the motor mounts, and I swapped the oil pan for clearance reasons only. Let me explain the oil pan. The factory truck oil pan does fit, but the motor has to sit higher in the engine bay, which means you need a bigger cowl hood. I wanted as close to stock as I could get, and the next step to do that would be to change the intake, which I am not doing. So, let me explain. Oil pan. So it is a 2002 Camaro oil pan. Now with this oil pan, you need the Camaro pickup tube with it also. Go down to your local parts store and ask for the O-ring for the pickup tube for the Camaro. Now, it is an updated O-ring from when it was factory released, so it's not going to match any color-specific one that GM would have used. I've learned that after a lot of reading online in forums, which are very, very helpful. So, with that being said, I ordered the pan, I put it on, I found it on eBay for around $100, shipped to my door. I found one with the pickup tube, which you're probably not going to find. The guy used it for a mock-up and then took it off. This pan is the exact same as the Holly and the hot rod one that everybody tries to sell for almost $400, I think. So I would go this route. Secondly, the factory truck intake works just fine. The factory truck manifolds work just fine in this situation. Now, another disclaimer, I am coming out the fenders because it is easier and you can buy mufflers small enough for very cheap, or you can fight finding a header that's going to make the exhaust out the back. I like the easy route and the quickest, easiest, cheapest way to do it. So I have the factory manifolds on this car. Now you take them off and swap sides so they face forward. The first issue that you are going to run into, depending on, well, okay, I won't say first, but whatever side you start on, there's going to be an issue here. If you notice, I have torched my sway bar out of this car because this passenger side one now does not clear the sway bar. It is no big deal, and I will clean that up later, but it now clears. So then you come over to the driver's side, and the power steering pump hits the manifold. As you can see, you can't get it up to the block where it needs to be. So to fix this issue, you go onto eBay and you type in alternator relocation kit 5.3 or something along those lines. Now, it requires a 105 amp alternator most of the time, I do believe, but there is a few different options, so you have to read the descriptions and learn what motor you have. Now, this is out of a 2003 Silverado, so it wasn't that hard after reading the description to find the one that I needed. I need a 105 amp alternator, and it then gets located over here with the brackets that you order off eBay. From there, the factory power steering pump will get moved up. Okay, so there is your manifold issue there. And now you're probably wondering what to do with the exhaust. Now, I am just going to X-pipe it in front of the crank pulley with 12-inch mufflers on each side out the fenders. Nice and simple, easy. Buy a couple bends on eBay, no big deal. For the radiator that I have, I literally had it laying around. We bought it for a G-body. If you don't know what a G-body is, like a 1980s Monte Carlo. We did dirt track racing, so we had it laying around. I don't know if a factory one will work. I didn't try it. I'm sure it will. I don't know if it'll keep it cool, but this worked just fine. And then I just made a super quick, cheesy, ghetto radiator mount. It doesn't look very nice, but guess what? It does its purpose. You can make it fancier if you please. You could use better metals if you please. Okay, so then this wire right here is one of the O2 sensors, I do believe. So I ran it underneath the intake since I'm going to have a forward-facing exhaust, and it plugs in down here. Now you can buy the factory collector for these on Summit Racing with the O2 sensor bung welded in already. From what I have learned, you have to have at least two O2 sensors in this car, or on this motor, to run. So, let's go underneath now and check out how we did the motor mounts. I'm going to pop this manifold off because I don't have the best lighting in here. So, give me 1 second and I will have that off. Alright, I got the manifold out. Luckily the bolts didn't really go in that far. But, so on these, I'm not sure if they all have this, but there is a hose that goes here, back up to the intake. Okay, so you can block it off here, and you can block it off up top. You do not need it. It is for emissions. If you live in California, I'm sorry that you suck. But I do like your state. I enjoy vacationing there. But it's just probably not the best situation with me building cars for California. Now, sorry, my phone is dead and I worked all day. So, let's check out this cross member now. As you can see, this is the factory cross member that came with the car. I have made the motor mounts. Let's go over this hose. I have made these motor mounts that just bolt on to the block in the factory location, and I used the old motor, the factory motor mount to mark the holes for it. I drilled the holes, found a 2-inch piece of pipe, welded it on, and this is the factory location for the motor mount on the 4-cylinder car. So with the F-body oil pan now, you can see that I do not have much room between that and the cross member. So with the motor being hard mounted to the car like this, it allows me to be closer down here. So if you build it like this picture, I'll put it up now. If you build it like the picture, you will need to have more room down here, which affects how much clearance you have for the hood up top. So, with that being said, you would want way more clearance because with the bushings that you would put into the motor mounts up here on the plate, like in this pipe, it'd be a T that goes into the plate. In those bushings, there would be play when you press the throttle, so you'd want more clearance. Now, none of this hits the rack and pinion like everybody says, and you do not need a tubular K-member. Now, oh, I'm getting tangled up. Now, the back side of this, if you want to see it, if I can get down here, is as tight as you can get it. None of it rubs. I made it as tight as I could get it, but made sure nothing was gonna hit. Now, I am using a Turbo 350. I've heard on the 4L60s and the 4L80s that you have to beat on the firewall or the trans tunnel to make room for it. Next, so this is the factory cross-member mount. I'm sorry I don't have very good lighting, but I literally made the same exact bracket right next to it. I welded it into the car and I moved the cross-member forward. Now that allows me to use the factory cross-member on the factory Chevy 350 transmission mount. Now, for the mount, I also happen to have a hard mount laying around from dirt track racing. So that is what it is going to get. Now, do I recommend any of this stuff for daily driving? Probably not, because it's very hard on things. But again, this is cheap. I have the stuff laying around, so why not use it? So that is why it is that way. So please don't give me any grief about it. So, next things next. You're probably wondering, oh, come on, focus. There we go. So now you're probably wondering, hey, how do we start this monster? Well, I must ask, where do you want to start? Do you want to start in the Fox body part of it? Or would you like to start in the LS part of it? So I have the factory LS harness here. And this main run for the fuse box and the computer usually sit in this area on the pickup. All I did was cut a hole big enough to get the plugs through, and then I tacked it back in, and I'll fill that in later, or somebody else can do it when they buy it. But I cut my cowls out, or I took my cowl off, and I cut the holes. I started on that side and learned that the factory truck computer will not go on that side and get covered up by that piece, the factory cowl for it. If you're confused by what I'm talking about, it just sits here. So, after I learned that it didn't fit in that side, I then cut this side out, shoved the computer back here, put the fuse box in here. So, it's not a daily driver car, so you don't really need wipers on it. Use Rain-X. I hear it works really good. It's not sponsored. I've just heard good things about it. So anyways, you're going to look up a LS run stand start. It involves, I believe, 3 or 4 wires, and from that you can run the engine if the VATS are deleted. If you're not sure what the VATS are, that is the Vehicle Anti-Theft System. There's 2 ways to take the VATS off so you don't have to pay somebody to do it. I also recommend looking that one up as it is so simple. Literally a 5-year-old could probably figure it out by watching the video. It is a very good video. I recommend it. It's something to do with plugging it into a factory LS vehicle and unplugging the body harness, or that would be before you pull the motor. The other way is to plug it in to the vehicle you're going to use, and then turn the key on like 5 times for 10 minutes each time or something along those lines, and it completely wipes it out. So there's the 2 ways to do that. Look up the video. It's very helpful. And then from there, you can jump into the Fox body wiring. So in the Fox body wiring, there's a factory solenoid that sits in this region. You take all of your positives and you run them to the battery, which I don't know where I'm going to put my battery yet, probably in the trunk. So all of these go to the battery, except that one. Okay, so then this one is usually on the little bolt or the stud of the solenoid. It looks like the bolt, the threads of a bolt. Okay, so on my car, usually this is the starter off the key. Now on this car, I found that in this gray plug farther up by the master cylinder right here, you can kind of see the colored wires in there. That is where my starter wire is. So by starter wire, I mean when you hold the key to where the starter would be engaged position. I found mine in this plug. Now, you also need a 12-volt switch to the factory fuse box, which I found in this plug. Now, how I found these two was with a test light. I ground it here, and I used the tip to press on each one of these pins until I found the one I wanted. Same with these wires. So, from that point, you now have your battery cables ran, all that good jazz, everything's hooked up. You now can start the motor off of the key. Now, if you're wondering if all of your interior electronics are going to work, your factory fuse box is hooked into your key. Off of these wires, I believe it's this one, to be honest with you, but I'm not sure, don't quote me on it. One of these is your key power. It sends key or power into your key, and then from there, the key, when you turn it on, sends power to your fuse box. So if your factory fuse box for the interior of the car works, all of your stuff is going to work. I have already tested this theory, and all of my windows work, but my driver door window switch is bad. All of my lights work. My blinkers work, my brake lights work, absolutely everything works. I ran a jumper wire to a battery sitting on the floor. So that is that, and it's not that hard. I don't recommend buying the kit if you don't have the money for it. And if you know somebody with a welder or know how to weld, that's how easy it can be. I hoped it helped a little bit. I'm really bad at explaining stuff, but I'm gonna finish building this car on YouTube, so hopefully the videos get better. I would really appreciate a subscribe and a like. Maybe turn on the notifications so you know when I post again. I think I'm gonna start posting weekly about this car. It's a new year. It's time to get it going. I got a couple older videos on it if you want to go back and look at them. But once I'm done with this car, I'm gonna roast the tires off of it, of course. Because I got to see how much damage it can take, and then send it down the road so I can build the next one. I have another Fox body that I got with this one in a trade deal, so I'm either going to build a death cart with that one or completely rebuild it. But yeah, check back. I appreciate you guys checking it out. I hope it helps explain a little better about how to do this without spending a bunch of money and trying to figure some stuff out. I hope it dumbs it down a little bit for you guys. It's kind of what I'm hoping to say. But yeah, I'm out. Laters.